behalf of Namita Gokhale, William Dalrymple, and all my colleagues at Teamwork Arts, welcome back to JLF's Brave New World. We're delighted to share with you that we've exceeded 2 million views for JLF's Brave New World, and none of this would have been at all possible without the support of all our writers, festival partners, and you, our dedicated viewers. As we lead into our 100th episode, we would love to hear from our viewers about how JLF's Brave New World has impacted and informed you. JLF Brave New World is a series that brings together the world's best minds and presents their ideas, innovations, and learnings. All the sessions are available to view on our Facebook page, JLF LitFest, or on our YouTube channel, Jaipur LitFest JLF. Our official radio partner is Red FM Bajate Raho. Our session today is the algorithm of love. Ravinder Singh, in conversation with Nishtha Gautam, explores the incredible creative journey of an author of his prolific life, from software engineering and writing best-selling modern romances to his latest eSingles, a series with Love Ravinder. Ravinder Singh is a well-known best-selling author, considered the king of romance, an alumni of Indian School of Business, and an ex-senior program manager at Microsoft. Singh once felt it's more fun writing stories than software programs. Now a full-time storyteller, he has sold more than 3.5 million copies of his novels. He also runs the publishing venture Black Ink, where he publishes debut authors. Nishtha Gautam is opinions editor at The Quint. Before moving to full-time journalism, she taught English literature at the University of Delhi for 8 years. She observed literary and cultural spaces with keenness, in tandem with her interest in politics and foreign affairs. Please do comment and ask questions by typing it into the comment section below. And in case any of you drop off due to bandwidth issues, you can find us on our YouTube channel, Jaipur LitFest JLF. And in case any of us fall off, just hang in there and we'll be right back on Facebook. Ladies and gentlemen, the algorithm of love. Ravinder Singh in conversation with Nishtha Gautam.
Thank you so much, Sanjoy. And thank you very much, JLF, for giving both of us this beautiful opportunity to bring out a beautiful session on love. But it is not any kind of love. It is a love which is mediated by some technology. And what a time to be talking about this algorithms of love with Ravinder Singh. Hi, Ravinder.
Hi, Nishtha, and hi everyone who is tuned on to this particular Zoom call right now.
Well, Ravinder, great time to be alive, right? Great time to be alive, great time to be in love, great time to be writing.
It's always a great time, in fact. I believe life is full of ups and downs, and as much as life is thrilling when you are up the tide, it's as thrilling once the tide hits low. Every day is a brand new opportunity. So I will be writing love stories, irrespective of whether or not we are in the pandemic or not. I think love is a different sort of pandemic itself, which I enjoy writing a lot about.
I was really curious about your life and your love. You have grown up in different parts of this country, right? If I'm not wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. You were born in Bhubaneswar, and then you studied in different colleges across the country, and then you have had a unique flavor of each region of this country. East, west, north, south, as it were. And I want to know from you about this pandemic of love. Which state of this country is the most lovely? Where do people love the most? It's a very controversial question. So yes, don't be diplomatic. I don't know you to be diplomatic, but I want you to be completely honest about it.
Yeah. So yes, you are right that I've spent good amount of my life in different parts of this country. The only fact which is wrong is that I was not born in Bhubaneswar. I was born in Calcutta actually. So I belong to a
Oh,
Sikh
you were.
family. Born in Calcutta, brought up in Odisha, did my engineering in the south of this country, did my engineering in Karnataka, my MBA in Hyderabad, started my career at Pune Infosys, and then eventually happened to work in Chandigarh, then moved to Belgium, then the US, and finally I'm right now in Gurgaon sitting, absolutely doing nothing which I learned in my college, but writing love stories. To your question, if I talk about uh, romance, it's everywhere, but the kind of hardcore romance that I find in the hinterland of this country. I mean, I spent 25 years of my life in Odisha, और वहां जो छोटे छोटे जो गांव कस्बों में जो रोमांस है ना, उसका बॉन्ड बहुत ज्यादा स्ट्रांग है. And I'm a small town boy who moved to a big city like Delhi, and I found it difficult to understand कि is this the flavor of love, क्योंकि मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग में ये प्यार नहीं था जब मैं बड़ा हो रहा था. And I've seen this, the sense of bonding, the sense of sacrifice जो एक small town में मिलती है, वो मुझे बड़े शहरों में कम मिली है. Like people are emotions थोड़े कम हो जाते हैं. This is my perception of it, and you may call it as this is a small town boy talking and appreciating small town, but I've lived in a city for 8-9 years now. But yeah, I think लोगों के दिल थोड़े से ना rock solid है metros में versus the small town. So not a particular place, but I'm talking about the economically divided geographies of this country.
Right. Okay. So is there an anecdote?
I lost your voice, Nishtha. I can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now,
Yes,
Ravinder?
yes.
Okay. Is there an anecdote from the hinterlands which is very close to your heart, and is there anything that you filed under to be processed and written about later? Any particular story, maybe in your neighborhood, maybe a friend of yours who had that experience, and you were deeply moved by it, and you thought that, oh, this is what love is all about.
Oh yes, in fact it is, and this is something I had witnessed in that very small town. A story of a young boy who's perhaps 17 or 18 years old, falling in love with a married woman, and it's a one-sided romance, and a beautiful one. The kind of emotions that he carries for this woman. In fact, my next novel, which is due in the month of February, uh, I am bringing this story as a sub story of the larger love story that I am bringing for my readers. So that sort of a romance, when I witnessed, it didn't have any parallel to talk about, but it has its own beauty. कि ऐसा भी हो सकता है, and जिस शिद्दत से उस लड़के ने उस औरत से प्यार किया था, and this woman also understands that this is not right, but look at the kind of love this guy at this age, it has to do with his age, he doesn't understand this, but let him grow old. But this whole infatuation, this crush at that particular age जो आपको समझ नहीं आता है, लेकिन ये मुझे ये पसंद है तो ये पसंद है, that's the kind of romance that I had in my memory कि ये कहीं ना कहीं जरूर लिखना है. So I'm writing it in my next novel.
Fantastic. So I'm looking forward to that. लेकिन रविंदर, हमने ये मुझे थोड़ा सा फिल्मी सा लग रहा है कि एक तरफा प्यार है, जवान लड़का है, मैरिड वुमन है, इसमें काफी स्कोप होता है एक वन साइडेडनेस इन अप्रोच एज वेल. क्या वो स्टॉकिंग है? क्या वो लड़का उस महिला को स्टॉक कर रहा है जिसको वो प्यार समझ रहा है? Because what men think as love is very different from how women feel love.
No, I understand where you're coming from, but you have to read the book to understand that this is not a case of stalking, and I completely understand the difference between stalking and a one-sided love affair in which the boy on the very first date has expressed this to her, and this woman is very welcoming. he goes there to teach her kid some music lesson. So she, in spite of knowing, and she knows that he is completely harmless, innocuous, there is no reason why she feels threatened. And it's not the kind of a प्यार कि जहाँ पे अगर आपने मुझे नहीं देखा तो मैं अपनी नस काटूंगा वाला प्यार. It is not that sort of a hinterland love. It is the most beautiful love that I can actually talk about, and how he lands up understanding it at a later stage once he grows up, that he has to do his college and he has to leave this particular place. It's a very emotional love story, end of the day. So stalking, I understand, stalking dur dur tak ka lena dena yahan pe nahi hai. It is just like, if I have to draw a parallel, I would say the movie Bobby, for example, that comes to my mind. You know, that young boy Rishi Kapoor at that particular time. It's somewhat similar, but this is a story which I had witnessed in front of my eyes.
Okay, right. Now, moving on to you as not an observer of love, but a writer and a career writer. आप अपने शौकिया नहीं लिखते हैं कि एक ये आपका प्रोफेशन भी है. And by God's grace, अगर आप, मुझे नहीं पता कि आप भगवान को मानते हैं या नहीं, लेकिन जो एक आपने स्विच किया है अपना करियर, आई थिंक it's been quite a fruitful journey for you as a writer. Why don't you talk about that a little? What are the things that you did right in the beginning? क्या गलतियां आपने नहीं करी, क्या आपने ठीक किया शुरू में?
एक गलती जो मैंने नहीं की, जो कि बहुत सारे राइटर्स आज भी करते हैं, वो ये कहते हैं कि I want to write, I want to write, I want to write. But that's the only thing they say. जो अगला पड़ाव है, somebody who has to write has to pick up the pen or at least type on the keyboard, which is missing 90% of the times that I have seen. And then people say that I want to become a writer, but I do not know what to write, how to write. And my first advice to them is that आपको पता नहीं कि क्या सही है, तो why don't you start with गलत? अब गलत लिखो, एक पूरा पेज गलत लिखो. Write everything that comes to your mind and understand that ये सब गलत है. ठीक है? Once you are done with it, now go about fixing it sentence by sentence. आप एक sentence तो सही लिख सकते हो ना? Go about that. Finish it. Divide the entire writing process into smaller milestones, and smaller milestone could be a one chapter, a one paragraph, or a one sentence thing. Whatever works for you. जो एक चीज मैंने सही की थी वो था कि मैंने अपनी लाइफ में उस वक्त, ये बात है 2008 की, मैंने जिद पाल ली थी कि मुझे तो ये करना ही है. Now, I'm not somebody who comes from a background of English literature. I'm not somebody, and I'm not proud to say this, कि I did not read books before. I started by, I'm an odd one out, I'm an outlier. I started writing a book first, because the tragedy had unfolded in my life. I had lost my then girlfriend at the age of 26, my first girlfriend, and things were at the verge of, us exchanging our rings when this unfortunate tragedy happened in my life, and I didn't know what to do with my life. And I thought the best way to step out of this trauma is to write about it. It was a catharsis, and I started writing that book. And in my head, I felt कि ये तो किताब छपनी चाहिए, क्योंकि ये मेरी कहानी है और मेरी ईगो बहुत बड़ी थी. हर राइटर की होती है कि ये तो मतलब the world has to read this thing. ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है? But and every publishing house I knew about had rejected it. So much so that I was in Delhi. Now I'm not a Delhi boy. In 2007, I used to come to Delhi, and this is the time जहाँ पे कि बहुत सारे publishing houses अभी internet पे नहीं move किए थे. So you do not email them the synopsis and manuscript. You used to print A4 size का, put them in an envelope and send it. So I remember the last branded publishing house. अच्छा, मुझे publishing houses के नाम भी नहीं पता थे. So I would enter a bookstore, I will pick a book, और उसकी spine पे मैं देखता था कि क्या logo बना है. कहीं पे Penguin का logo था, कहीं पे HarperCollins का. Random House was a different publishing house back then. After that, many years later, they merged. There was Rupa. तो मैंने ऐसी सबकी लिस्ट में, अच्छा भैया ये publishing house है, and I did my research on internet. तो सबने मुझे reject कर दिया. In fact, उनको मेरी कहानी इतनी बेकार लगी कि many of them even felt कि इसको मतलब rejection mail भी क्यों भेजना है, ये इतनी गई गुजरी कहानी है. I remember the last publishing house which had not rejected me, and me arriving at their premises and they showing me away, the security guard कि कहाँ से मुंह उठा के आ जाते हो, sort of a thing. And I said, okay, guys, in case you have rejected my script, can I please request you to give those A4 papers back to me, because I fear that somebody will misuse my story. And in my head, it was my tribute to my dead girlfriend. So I was very emotionally involved with that story. And then some editor said, we don't keep manuscripts that we would have rejected. We would have thrown them in a dustbin. So why don't you go out and check in the garbage? So without even knowing what that story is about, when somebody talked to me like that, मेरे अंदर का जो पंजाबी वाला जो खून है ना, 26 साल का लड़का, पंजाबी ब्लड, उसने वो जिद पाल ली कि अब तो यार ये ना किताब छपेगी. So I remember somehow I ran from pillar to post. I remember going to Connaught Place. उस टाइम पे मुझे फर्स्ट टाइम Connaught Place का नाम पता चला कि अच्छा यहाँ पे एक जगह है जहाँ पे कि लोग फुटपाथ पे किताब बेच रहे होते हैं ना. आई वाज वेरी श्योर कि मेरी किताबें तो भैया ऑक्सफोर्ड और क्रॉसफोर्ड में बिकने से रही, बिकॉज नो पब्लिशर इज विलिंग टू पब्लिश मी, बट लेट मी ट्राई दिस थिंग. सो आई वेंट टू द फुटपाथ वालास एंड आई आस्क्ड कि भैया अगर मैं आपको 20 किताब लाके दूंगा तो आप रखोगे क्या अपने यहाँ पे, मतलब बेचोगे क्या? एंड ही वाज लाइक कि आप डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर हो क्या? आई सेड नहीं, मैं ऑथर हूँ. दिस चैप डजंट अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट एन ऑथर इज. वो बेचारा गरीब है, वो उसको पता भी नहीं, उसको सिर्फ किताबें बेचनी है. And then he agreed कि ठीक है यहाँ पे लाके रख देना, कुछ बिकेगा तो पैसा ले आना. So he was trying to show me अभी कि ये मेरा सिर खा रहा है, but let him do what he wants to do. तो 5 किताबें रख देना, अगर बिकेगा तो पैसा ले जाना. In my head, I had fixed my first retailer. And then I thought कि Connaught Place में और कितने लोग हैं जो किताबें बेचते हैं. So 1, 2, 3, 20 लोग मेरे तय हो गए थे. And then once I had fixed my retailer, I thought कि अब प्रोडक्शन हाउस कहाँ पे है, and I found out कि जितनी भी किताबें हम पढ़ते हैं टाटा मैग्रो हिल्स की, सीबीएसई की, दे आर ऑल प्रिंटेड इन द प्लेस कॉल्ड दरियागंज. नाउ दरियागंज इज अ पेपर टाउन ऑफ, मतलब वो शाहरुख खान की मूवी की तरह पन्ने ऐसे उड़ रहे होते हैं. तो 2008 आई वेंट टू दरियागंज एंड आई वेंट टू अ प्रिंटर एंड आई आस्क्ड दैट गाय कि भैया 500 किताब अगर छापनी है तो कितना पैसा लगेगा. सो आई एम जस्ट ऑपरेटिंग, दिस इज the MBA me, the businessman me operating much before I went to a B school to do my MBA. बट वो जिद थी कि मैंने उस दिन उससे पूछा कि 500 किताब छापने का कितना लोगे, एंड 10 years later that first novel of mine had sold more than 1 million copies. So that's my journey.
You definitely deserve a huge round of applause for this perseverance. और जो आप ईगो की बात कर रहे हैं कि बहुत बड़ी ईगो, मुझे यहाँ पे कोई ईगो दिखाई नहीं दी इस जर्नी में. बेसिकली आपने जाके कहते हैं, हिंदी में कहावत होती है कि मैंने बहुत जूते चटकाए हैं.
राइट.
सो एक्चुअली आपने किताब लिखने के बाद काफी जूते चटकाए हैं.
And you know,
wherever you have come.
Exactly. And you know what I genuinely thank, मतलब a lot of people would say कि अच्छा, now that he's in this position, he's making this flamboyant remark, but I genuinely thank कि लोगों ने मुझे reject किया, because this is how I learned the trick of the trade. I perhaps could not have sold. I'm not an author कि मेरा काम, मैंने किताब लिख दी, now publisher will sell. I am aware that I have to do my last bit to sell my books, because I got my hands dirty, क्योंकि मैंने अपनी चप्पल घिसाई. मुझे पता है कि पूरा ये ट्रेड चलता कैसे है, कहाँ पे प्रिंटर है, कहाँ पे पब्लिशर है, कहाँ पे डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर, कहाँ पे रिटेलर, कहाँ पे. आई अंडरस्टैंड एवरीथिंग एंड आई गॉट टू डू दिस बिकॉज आई वाज रिजेक्टेड. अब मरता क्या नहीं करता वाली बात थी. सो इट्स अ ब्लेसिंग इन डिस्गाइज दैट हैज हैपेंड टू मी.
Right. Do you then see yourself as a professional writer who's actually writing to sell his books, rather than a writer who will write even if nobody is willing to read?
Oh, absolutely.
Because दोनों तरह के writers हैं.
Right. I am somebody. In fact, I remember I was in Calcutta for a different literature festival, and somebody in the crowd said, demarcation हो गई थी. अच्छा, these are literary वाले authors, and that's a commercial author. And I was like, why do people take this commercial author का tag as a थोड़ा नीचे level का? I take pride in calling myself as commercial author because I generate so much value out of it. I'm not saying that others do not generate, but for me, I am not somebody जो कि सिर्फ अपने लिए लिखता है. My first book was a different reason for me to write. I had to write it because it was catharsis, and I did not right to sell 1,000,000 copies, वो हो गया end of the day. But today, if you ask me that can I write something, I will not write it अगर मुझे पता है उसके लिए readership है ही नहीं. This is, had I been continuing with my job at Microsoft or any other company, had I been with my 9 to 5 job, then this would have come कि ये तो सिर्फ मेरा passion है. Now this is my passion as well as my bread and butter. So I have to generate value out of it. I cannot write for the sake of writing until I am sure that people are going to buy the books. And I also have to generate value for my publishers. Why would they pay me and a big fat check when I know that a particular person is not going to buy this book? I have to take everything into consideration.
राइट रविंदर, यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा एक मैं सवाल पूछूंगी आपसे, जो हो सकता है कि आपको पसंद ना आए, कि जहाँ पे एक बात होती है, आपने क्योंकि कमर्शियल राइटर और लिटरेरी ऑथर की का एक डिमार्केशन की बात कही है इधर, तो there is this charge against commercial writers that you are actually responding to the lowest common denominator, कि अगर मिसोजिनी पढ़ना चाहते हैं लोग तो आप उनको मिसोजिनी परोसेंगे, राइट? या जो कंटेंट है वो एक प्लेइंग टू द गैलरी आता है.
Okay.
How would you respond to that?
I don't think कि मिसोजिनी परोसने वाला काम I mean, क्योंकि मैंने कभी किया नहीं है, I find it difficult. In fact, and I'm not even trying to defend this by saying that कि majority of my books the hero actually is the woman. और लोग कहते हैं कि तुम्हारी बुक में हीरो लड़का क्यों नहीं होता, लड़की क्यों होती है. But I don't think that works. अगर किसी को मिसोजिनी परोसनी है तो वो लिटरेरी फिक्शन में भी आ सकती है, नॉन फिक्शन में भी आ सकती है, माइथोलॉजी में भी जाके आ सकती है. The whole idea of patriarchy is immense in the mythological era. I don't think that's right. That we cannot play it to the gallery. अब मुझे लोग कहते हैं कि आप सिर्फ रोमांस ही क्यों लिखते हैं? That I get often, and I'm like, उसमें लिखने में कोई प्रॉब्लम है क्या? Like for example, a journalist at a book interview asked me, सर आपकी 7वीं किताब आई है, ये भी रोमांस, आप सिर्फ लव स्टोरीज लिखते हैं, कुछ सीरियस क्यों नहीं लिखते हैं? And I was like, अब मैं आपसे सवाल करता हूँ. So I became the person who was supposed to interview the interviewer कि आपको क्यों लगता है कि रोमांस सीरियस इशू नहीं है? क्या आपको पता है कि इंडिया में डिवोर्स रेट्स कितने ऊपर जा रहे हैं? क्या आपको पता है कि डिप्रेशन की वन ऑफ द प्राइम कॉजेज इज कि उनकी रिलेशनशिप नहीं चल रही है? क्या आपको पता है कि majority of the issues today are related to the relationship वाला issue versus कि ऑफिस में बॉस के साथ नहीं बन रही है? So once you take a toll of all this, heartbreak is rampant. People are having major issues. And I'm trying to sort these issues in my way. People try to find solace in my book. Somebody who has a heartbreak recently confides in me कि मेरे साथ ऐसा हो गया, आप बताओ कि मुझे क्या करना चाहिए. And that at that young age of 17, 18, 20, 21, when you're so vulnerable, you really need a person who understands you and tells you कोई बात नहीं, this relationship was not the last thing. तो आप मुझे ये बताइए कि ये serious issue क्यों नहीं है? That's I can speak for my books, what I write. Problem इंडिया में ये कि हम किताब को ना सिर्फ टाइटल से जज कर लेते हैं. अच्छा लव स्टोरी है तब तो मतलब ये एक एज के लिए ही लिखता है. But you have to read the book to find out and make sense of it.
When I was teaching in Lady Shri Ram College many years ago, and it's a women's college, और हर अब दिल्ली में जब आप आए होंगे तो एल सर का नाम अच्छा खासा सुना होगा ना आपने, एल सर की लड़कियां.
जब मैं नहीं आया तभी सुना था.
तो उस टाइम पे एक बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग बात थी कि जो इंग्लिश ऑनर्स वाली लड़कियां थी, उनको आपका ना तो नाम पता था, ना वो इंटरेस्टेड थे आपके फिक्शन में.
Right.
लेकिन जो दूसरे कोर्सेज थे, बिकॉज मैं दूसरी भी क्लासेस लिया करती थी, फिलोसफी या जो हिस्ट्री ऑनर्स के जो स्टूडेंट्स थे उनका जो इंग्लिश कंपल्सरी सब्जेक्ट था, many of them were aware of your books.
Right.
I was not. I have to admit, मुझे नहीं पता था, मैंने केवल आपका नाम सुना था और मैंने आपकी किताबें केवल वही जो आपने बताया कि कनॉट प्लेस में जो रिटेलर्स थे मैंने वहां पर देखी थी.
Right.
And when I went to another college to teach, वहां पे both men and women, both the girls and the boys in my class, they were aware of your writing, your novels. And कभी मैं जब उनको assignment के लिए बोलती थी कि अच्छा अपने favorite author के बारे में लिखो या अपने favorite novel के बारे में लिखो, so your name would pop up very often. And now my question to you then is, how do you feel कि आपको ऑडियंस का प्यार, जो आपके जो रीडर्स हैं उनका प्यार मिलना, जो मैंने भी शायद अभी बताया कि आपको पता नहीं होगा कि दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी के जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं वो अपने असाइनमेंट में आपको फेवरेट ऑथर की तरह यूज कर रहे हैं, या फिर एक लिटरेरी रिकॉग्निशन होती है कि भाई मैं जेएलएफ के प्लेटफॉर्म पे आ रहा हूँ या कैलकाटा जा रहा हूँ या मेरी बुक शॉर्टलिस्ट हो रही है, आपको किस चीज में एक सेटिस्फैक्शन एज अ राइटर मिलती है?
I'm so glad, Nishtha, you asked this question to me. मैं आपको बताता हूँ exactly, जब तक हम कोई चीज किसी मुकाम पे नहीं पहुंचते हैं ना, we are so hungry about it. मुझे याद है, I was among the very few, again, I मतलब क्योंकि ये दुनिया ने डिवाइड कर दिया, I personally do not want to divide कि ये लिटरेरी है, ये कमर्शियल है, ये माइथोलॉजी, but क्योंकि for the sake of the argument, I was among the very few commercial authors, successful commercial authors who was invited to a JLF. और उस टाइम पे बहुत सारे मेरे peers थे, उनको लगा कि वाह यार, हमें तो कभी वहां से इनविटेशन आया नहीं, तुझे आ गया. Now this is 2011 या 12 की बात है. For a new author, for a first time author, 3 साल हो गए थे, धीरे धीरे छोटी छोटी जो माइलस्टोन्स आ रहे थे वो इंपॉर्टेंट थे उस टाइम पे. तो मुझे याद है जो जेएलएफ का जो बैज मिला था, वंस यू आर वो जो डेलीगेट वाला बैज की ही इज एन ऑथर वाला बैज, मैंने उसकी फोटो खींच के सोशल मीडिया में डाली थी, लाइक एज इफ कि ये मेरा एक मेडल मिल गया है, बिकॉज यू बीइंग कॉल्ड बाय अ बिग फेस्टिवल इज अ सॉर्ट ऑफ एक्नॉलेजमेंट. और तब तक जो छोटी छोटी चीजें मेरे लिए बहुत मैटर करती थी, लाइक फॉर एग्जाम्पल द वेरी फर्स्ट बुक स्टोर विच कॉल्ड मी एंड आई वाज लाइक ओ माय गॉड, अ बुक स्टोर इज कॉलिंग मी. And the very first time, there were 9 readers who had come to my session. It was a big ticket item. For the very first time, I got a deal for my second novel with Penguin. It was an important event for me. All these acknowledgements have mattered, and in my heart, I'm so thankful out there. But I cannot look at them as the final goalpost. These are milestones in my journey. I have to go past. And uske baad se every year I got invited at JLF. It kind of became a routine for me. Every year jana hi hai. Last year my mom had swine flu and I could not go, and I had said, so sorry, I can't make it. And that was the first time my readers told me, sir, इस साल आप आए नहीं JLF. So ना ही ये मेरे लिए रूटीन बन गया था, बट कि जयपुर में जो मेरे रीडर्स है उनके लिए भी रूटीन बन गया था. So I look at it as important milestones. बट मैं किसी भी चीज से रोमांस करके वहां रुकना नहीं चाहता हूँ. I want to go to the next level altogether. At one point of time, I would like to go out to international literature festivals and talk to them Indian love stories. I've been very vocal कि सिर्फ हम इंडिया में बैठ के यूएस वाली लव स्टोरीज क्यों पढ़ते हैं, when my reader in this country says I value Fault in Our Stars at the same level at which I value I Too Had a Love Story. These are two different books, but bang on similar emotions out there. And I think that the reverse osmosis should happen. Indian authors, and not just the literary, not just the non-fiction, but the whole diaspora of commercial mass market, and their work should flow out. So I was talking to Namita the other day, JLF में 10 साल से आ रहा हूँ. Let's go to the JLF boulders and other festivals that you are conducting outside.
Right. And now इसी से एक थोड़ा सा और provocative सवाल मैं पूछती हूँ कि शायद कोई स्नॉबरी एक होती है कि मतलब पब्लिशर्स पार्टी में जाते हैं और जेएलएफ के बारे में, जेएलएफ इनसाइडर जो एक बहुत ही अमेजिंग ट्विटर अकाउंट है, and तो वहां पे एक चलता है ना कि there is this high literary pretense and this so called small mindedness of the commercial author कि उसको सिर्फ यही चीज लगती है कि भाई मेरी किताबें बिक जाएं. Have you faced that kind of divide as a writer?
I know, and as a person, I've been very vocal and very upfront and very honest about it. मुझे मजा आता है कि सच को सच की तरह बोलने में. Yes, there are पार्टीज होती हैं जहाँ पे कि बहुत ही स्नूटी स्नोबरी वाले लोग आते हैं. I know a few people who on my face refuse to even know my name, and I know that they know my name because they had reached out to me some time back on emails and on calls also. But कहीं ना कहीं लगता है कि यार अब ये वो लोग हैं जिनकी ईगो बहुत ज्यादा बड़ी है कि मतलब ये कल का छोकरा हमारे यहाँ पे आके ऐसी किताबें कैसे बेच सकता है. एंड आई एम लाइक वेरी अपफ्रंट, सर मेरी इंग्लिश आपकी तरह नहीं हो सकती है. आई मे नीड अ डिक्शनरी टू रीड योर बुक्स, और मेरे रीडर को मेरी किताबें पढ़ने के लिए डिक्शनरी की जरूरत नहीं है. इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि मैं आप पे कोई तोहमत लगा रहा हूँ कि आप इतना कॉम्प्लिकेटेड क्यों लिखते हैं. बट जब कोई मुझे कहता है कि यार लुक एट द लैंग्वेज, तुम तो उसी लैंग्वेज में लिखते हो जिसमें हम बात करते हैं, व्हाट इज द आर्ट इन योर बुक राइटिंग. एंड आई एम सेइंग my art is not the writing, my art is the story and the way I choose to narrate my story. मुझे लगता है कि the best part of this free democratic market is यहाँ सबकी दुकान लगी है, हर तरह क्या यहाँ पे कारें बिक रही हैं. कोई BMW खरीद रहा है, कोई मारुति खरीद रहा है. आप BMW बेच रहे हो, आपको BMW वाले एलीट मिल जाएंगे, आपकी कारें शायद कम बिकेंगी. मैं मारुति बेच रहा हूँ, मेरी कारें शायद बड़ी ज्यादा संख्या में बिकेंगी. इट्स अ फ्री वर्ल्ड. लेट मी राइट व्हाट आई वांट टू राइट. एंड अगर भीड़ आके मेरे ऑटोग्राफ के लिए खड़ी हो रही है और आपकी नहीं हो रही है तो आई कांट डू इट. आई रियली विश कि you do it, and in my heart I have immense respect for you as an individual. और मैं कह रहा हूँ कि सर मैं तो आपकी लेवल की बात भी नहीं कर सकता जो आप सोच रहे हो, बट आप तब छोटे हो जाते हो मेरी नजरों में अगर आप मुझसे जेलसी से पेश इसलिए आ रहे हो just because you felt I do not belong to this group and I have gate crashed the party and I'm here to stay.
Yes, cheers to that, Ravinder. And you're most welcome to this party. And I say this not as a journalist, but somebody who has taught English literature, जो Chaucer or Shakespeare पढ़ाया है मैंने. You're most welcome, because literature does not mean a certain kind of literature. Literature is this beautiful garden which has scope for every color, every kind of flower, which has multiple colors, multiple hues, multiple fragrances, and that's what makes this garden beautiful. And on this note, Ravinder,
thank you for saying that. Nishtha, thank you for saying that.
और मैं कुछ सवाल लेना चाहती हूँ क्योंकि ऑडियंस थोड़े सवाल भेज रहे हैं. Now, देवांजी ने पूछा है, due to the lockdown, lakhs in different age groups have slipped into depression due to various reasons, job loss, separation, etc. What advice do you have for them to help bring back light into their lives?
Well, I completely understand this. In fact, I, as a person, was also going through this whole depressed state of mind, seeing the television network of the kind of news that was being broadcasted, also knowing that my publishers telling me that books bitni band ho chuki hai, which means you are dead. Like we cannot sell books for another 2-3 months out there. Every challenge is an opportunity to prove yourself. I took up something new during this lockdown. कि चलो ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं. I go back to the same 2008. अगर सारे publishers ने मुझे छापना बंद कर दिया है, पर मैं नहीं रुकूंगा वाली बात थी. और यहाँ पर आके when I get to know that bookstores are shut, Amazon is not selling books because it's not a needed product. The whole mandate was कि only the necessary items can be shipped. And I knew that I cannot sit idle like this. I brought out something new. I did two things. I started humor on my social media just to keep myself sane and people around me sane. That I am known as a writer who writes emotional love stories. I make people cry. And in this lockdown, I could not make people cry. I thought for all the time that I made people cry, let me give myself a new reason to make people laugh. I did that and it's going super well. In fact, I started a YouTube channel of my own self. I think the good thing here to this person who has asked this question, we were never this digital 10 years back as we are today. There are so many platforms on which you can prove your mettle. This was missing in 2007 when I wanted to become an author. As on date, if I want to become an author, I'll kickstart my writing on social media and I will create a fan following for myself. It should grow this big that tomorrow the publishers of this country would want कि यार ये लड़का अपने पेज पे कुछ गजब लिख रहा है, इसको छापते हैं, let me reach out to him. That's the one thing which I did for humor. I also understood कि physical books नहीं जा रही है. For the very first time, I wrote in a short format. I wrote eSingles.
Singles, yes.
The name of the series is With Love, Ravinder. I wrote to HarperCollins, my publishers, guys. I see this as a new opportunity. It's a challenging time, but I see a new opportunity. क्या मैं कुछ ऐसा कर सकता हूँ कि हर हफ्ते एक लव स्टोरी, छोटी लव स्टोरी 7,000 वर्ड्स की लेके आऊंगा, हम सिर्फ डिजिटली रोल आउट करेंगे. And they were bang on the idea. We signed a contract in the lockdown.
Wow.
7th love story is due on this Monday, and the next Monday it will be 8th, and we will end it. And those love stories are doing so well that people are now telling me, sir, ab to lockdown khul gaya, can we do a paperback of all these digital love stories? And not only that, we are now talking about season 2 of With Love, Ravinder. So my idea is, अगर आपको किसी डिप्रेशन से निकलना है, आप उस डिप्रेशन पे तब तक रहेंगे जब तक आप उस void में रहेंगे. आप इस void को हटाइए, और void को कैसे हटाएंगे? By giving yourself a goal. Every morning you wake up, मेरा goal, मेरा लक्ष्य ये है, मैं कितनी दूर हूँ, मुझे अब क्या करना है उसके लिए. That's my way.
Right. Another question that has come is, can you give some advice to aspiring writers? Ria has asked, and I think you have answered this question already.
And this is the most asked question. This is the most asked question. And जिस दिन मैं आखिरी सांस भी ले रहा हूँ ना, कोई मुझसे मिलने आएगा, सर एक एडवाइस दे दोगे कि मैं क्या करूँ? मैं ये कहता हूँ कि प्लीज लिखना शुरू करो. That's the only advice. गलत लिखना शुरू करो और फिर एक एक करके सही करो.
Agastya पूछ रहे हैं, what is your take on poetry? Have you ever thought of writing poems?
I have never thought of writing poems because I know that I'm not good at it. मैं वही काम करूंगा in which I believe कि हाँ ये मुझे समझ में आता है और मैं करना चाहता हूँ. Sadly, in this country, the market of poetry ऐसा है कि you won't see people buying poetry की किताबें. You won't see people publishers publishing poetry की किताबें because there are no buyers. किन लोगों की पोइट्री की किताब छपती है और बिकती है? गुलजार साहब की, जावेद अख्तर जी की, या उर्दू की जो पाकिस्तान से जो आई हुई है शेरो शायरी, वो बिक रहा होता है. Today, the market of poetry is you kickstart your own social media Instagram handle and write couplets and quotes and poetry and poems out there. The second thing that you can do, which जो कि इससे भी ज्यादा बेटर है, वो है स्लैम पोइट्री. आज स्पोकन फेस्टिवल जैसे बहुत सारे फेस्टिवल्स हो रहे हैं जहां लोग माइक पकड़ के, जैसे स्टैंड अप कॉमेडी का रेवोल्यूशन आया था, वैसे दिस इज द टाइम राइट नाउ, दिस रेवोल्यूशन ऑफ poetry is coming. It's on the spoken thing. So if you are an upcoming poet और आप अपना future देखते हैं, go for the spoken poetry वाला thing instead of thinking कि मैं book print करके publish करना चाहता हूँ.
Right. Another question that somebody has asked is, how difficult is it to write ebooks? I don't think there is any difference in medium, but
Yeah,
maybe you would be able to tell them.
It's not. I mean, as a writer, I don't even care कि ये ebook है या paperback है या ये audio book बनेगी. I am creating content for me. I think the question would be, how difficult is it to consume ebook for somebody who is in the habit of reading a paperback? क्योंकि आप सारा दिन वैसे ही फोन की स्क्रीन पे होते हो, लैपटॉप पे होते हो, टेलीविजन पे होते हो. Now, is it easy in your mind to shift from a paper back to ebook? The good thing in this shift is that the ebooks that I have written are eSingles and not books of 70,000 words. These are 7,000 words. The whole idea is it's a bedtime story. आप सोने से आधे घंटे पहले इसको पढ़ेंगे, you'll be done. The price point at which we are selling these ebooks is also fantastic. Again, the businessman, me, not the author, me. The price, they're priced at 40 rupees. It's a very easy download for a half an hour का read. इतना सारा Netflix, इतना सारा Amazon Prime देखने के बाद मेरी brain imagine करना भूल गई है. Let me read those words and imagine the scene in my head. That's the positive energy. Unlike something on television which consumes energy, books give you the energy. So yeah, that's my thought process on ebooks.
Shreya is asking, what are your views on love in the times of Corona?
Quite interesting. love in the times of Corona has moved to become 99% digital now.
पहले भी
People
डिजिटल होता था रविंदर, लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस रिलेशनशिप, यूट्यूब एंड व्हाट्सएप कॉल्स ने
लॉकडाउन
लाइफ
में
थोड़ी आसान कर दी.
लॉकडाउन में मोहल्ले पार वाली लव स्टोरी भी अब लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस लव स्टोरी बन चुकी है. So the author in me, this is how I would summarize this thing. The dating scene, yaar. Matlab, how would you even go out and meet someone and trust someone ki if he or she is not carrying the virus? Love is a very intimate relationship, unlike any other relationship. You can only imagine a kiss in your head and you want to, but you cannot. आपके दिमाग में चल रहा है. पहले एक जो मेरे रोमांस में था, there were cases की there is a virus which stops people from getting intimate unless until they get the contraception right. अब तो किस पे भी पाबंदी आ गई है. So if the romance wala writer in me has to bring the COVID versus the AIDS into picture and talk about the whole complexity of it, it's a big ticket item. And then love talks about intimacy as well. It's a prime factor, and that particularly has taken a back seat. And you cannot carry on with love in today's generation without thinking about intimacy at one point of time. And 6 months is a good long time period. I don't know ye kab tak continue hone wala, which also is a very interesting subject for me. So एक मेरी कहानी आई है eSingles, उसका नाम है Love Bites. Love Bites. The bites here is reference to खाने की वो bites. तो कहानी का जो एक छोटा सा प्लॉट है, मैं बता देता हूँ कि ऊपर के फ्लोर पे एक लड़का आया है जो कि यूएस से अभी इंडिया में लैंड किया है और उसको भेज दिया गया है 14 दिन के क्वारंटाइन में. नीचे के घर में एक लड़की रहती है जो बोर हो रही है पर उसको खाना बनाना बड़ा पसंद है. These two और मेरी लव स्टोरी, and I wrote this love story in the lockdown, imagining अगर मेरी सोसाइटी में ऐसा कुछ होता तो कैसा होता. The beauty of this love story is that कि वो दोनों एक दूसरे से मिल नहीं सकते हैं, वर्टिकली ऊपर नीचे रहते हैं, they cannot see each other. और उस सोसाइटी में इंटरनेट का ब्रॉडबैंड भी पहले ही दिन ठप हो चुका है. So they cannot, the guy cannot see the YouTube videos to know how to cook something, और वो एकदम जाहिल है किचन में. The girl loves to listen to the songs जो वो बजाता है अपनी बालकनी में गिटार सुबह सुबह आके. They in this pandemic वो रोज एक दूसरे से बात करते हैं without knowing कि वो एक दूसरे कि वो दिखते कैसे हैं. All that, और वो describe करते हैं, मैं मेरी हाइट इतनी है, मेरे बाल ऐसे हैं. Just imagine this love story folding in a pandemic. Throughout the story, they never get to see each other. And
fantastic. That's what love is. Love is blind.
तो love bites का मतलब यहाँ पे ये कि then they make a basket वाला arrangement. वो ऊपर से रस्सी फेंकता है, ये खाना नीचे से डाल के ऊपर भेजती है और वो उसके लिए गिटार बजाता है. बस इतनी सी कहानी है. But you should read, उसकी end में एक twist है. So love bites again, मतलब क्योंकि जिसने पूछा है कि love story in a lockdown, तो मैं आपको pitch करना. Otherwise, I would not have pitched this. But you should read.
Certainly. Thank you so much, Ravinder. जब तक love है, तब तक love stories रहेंगी, और जब तक love stories रहेंगी, तब तक Ravinder Singh रहेंगे. And thank you so much for talking to me. And it has been my honor and pleasure to have this conversation with you, Ravinder.
Thank you so much, Nishtha. I really appreciate you being here and maneuvering this conversation in a very interesting territory. So I really enjoyed being in conversation with you.
Thank you so much. So
thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nishtha, and thank you so much, Ravinder. This is really love in the time of broadband crisis, and I'm sure everybody is going to go out immediately and pick up or try and access that book, the ebook, and of course also log into your YouTube channel to listen to some of your comedy stuff. And I think what you said is that love is a serious business, and so is humor and comedy. Both are serious businesses. And especially in these times of where everybody's finding it somewhat difficult to be able to maneuver in their space, in their offices, in their personal lives, what better way to, as Ravinder said, sort of drown yourself, but in a beautiful love story, in a piece of laughter and humor. And Ravinder, more than happy for you to travel the world with us whenever that is, whenever the world opens up. But till then, we will have you travel with us virtually. And you're right, the year that you didn't come, hordes of your fans, and perhaps it's also got something to do with the way you look. Lying with them, like, we're walking around with great broken hearts. So
please don't underestimate my writing. Please don't underestimate my
both,
writing.
both. Listen, it always helps.
Thank you.
It always helps. Like you
Ravinder,
said,
you don't underestimate your looks as well. You
Yeah.
don't underestimate your looks.
Thank you. I
not
take that as a
from
compliment. Thank you so much, guys.
But thank you, Nishtha. Thank you for guiding this beautiful conversation, as Ravinder said. And thank you all for watching. And sorry we couldn't present all your questions to Ravinder. Maybe we'll send them across to him and he can then answer some of them and send it back to you. For those of you who've loved the session, please remember that you have to log in at 8:30 for our second part. And before that, we thank our official radio partner, Red FM Bajate Raho. And our next conversation is Live a Little, Harvard Jacobson in conversation with Chandrahas Chaudhary, the Booker Prize award-winning writer and broadcaster, Harvard Jacobson, whose novels include The Mighty Walzer, Kaluki Nights, The Act of Love, and the Man Booker Prize 2010 winning The Finkler Question, is in conversation with Chandrahas Chaudhary. He talks about his life in writing and his latest novel, Live a Little, which, Ravinder, is also a love story. Like you said, perhaps it's the serious part of the love story. See you at 8:30 p.m. Hang in there.
So yeah, bye-bye, guys.